Greetings, Marv Gardens here reporting in for this Wednesday day. Uh, and we are going to be talking about um basically contemporary stuff. And the subject of this discussion is going to be attention span. Little joke for you to get it started and stuff. But what I'm going to be going to and about attention span is how you know it seems that as the century progresses, attention span becomes in some cases more important and in other cases less important. And what I'm going to draw is the difference, okay? In earlier times, attention span, you're basically you worrying about other things wasn't as important because you know without a without different forms of communication you wouldn't be able to learn much anyway from paying attention. So attention wasn't really a serious matter back in the day. I mean, of course things still happen, but it 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 wasn't. I mean, what could you really do about it per se? What I'm trying to say, it's like, you know, I'm not talking about stuff like, make sure you keep your valuables in your pocket and yada yada. I'm talking about stuff like, being able to know what's going on around you and what's going on in the world, and you know that can seem trivial, but if someone told you that they would take away all your forms of interaction except person-to-person communication, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't agree with them. And that just goes to show how much attention people do pay nowadays versus back in the day. Because you can't tell someone you're going to take away means of communication that they don't have. So I guess that was it. That's probably more the simpler comparisons of contemporary and past centuries. An example in which people don't really pay attention nowadays is to how they view the world, and I say in the sense that people are so caught up with taking in all the daily information of what's going on around them and in the world constantly that they don't really get a chance anymore to just sit down and process the things that they're always being exposed to. And I say process in the sense that you know people are not looking for the long answer nowadays. People are always more concerned with the short answer. People are not trying to invest time into uh thinking things out as a sort of rational amusement, and that can that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does go to show how much you know information we do take in every day, and that's just another point. We take in so much information, you probably don't even notice how much information you take in throughout the day, and that just goes back to so much going on around you that you're spending more time trying to keep up with everything versus trying to go through everything. And that can always lead to, um, um, what you would call, not I want to say misunderstandings, because it's not about understanding. It's not like somebody's trying to tell you something. It can lead to a sort of airheadedness. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not calling nobody stupid. Don't do that thing where you just hear something and then you just be like, boom, your mind is gone. You just want to go with that. And that's another thing that's a bad habit of people nowadays. People tend to be uh word oriented versus phrase oriented. And what I'm trying to say with that is, people tend to focus more on a specific thing that they process versus processing the whole uh cloud of information. Like they'll just take the raindrop versus the whole cloud. And I feel like that's a bad habit that we all picked up as kids and stuff. No matter what your generation is, as long as you was born um within the 20th to 21st century radius. And I feel like that's just a purposeful tactic that was picked up because things were changing and you didn't always have time to sit back and ask people, hey, what's going on? Because the world is not happening in pieces, the world is happening simultaneously. And I feel like by being able to always access what's going on in the world simultaneously, people begin to drift away from what's going on around them in terms of, your mental visualizations of the world. People can often get caught up in what they are being informed about versus what they are able to learn about. And that is a what you would call a short. I would call it short-term memory. It's not a great use of the word, but that's the meaning I'm trying to get across. The idea that people are going to most likely remember what they just saw an hour ago or 2 hours ago versus a day ago, a week ago, and let alone anything else after that. Don't even think about that. And that just goes to show that part of being a 21st century citizen is always about is just being distracted all the time, always distracted, never preoccupied with something. And that's another thing. When people think about preoccupations, the most easiest thing to go to is working kids. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if those preoccupations are priority right now, then I can't tell you to discard your priorities. But what I'm saying is that if you pay attention to music, even music nowadays, the song by Marvin Gaye, "What's Going On," that came out years and years ago, and I feel like a lot of people have even lost touch with that simple meaning. That people could tell you what they just heard, or what's popular right now, but they can't tell you what's going on right now. What is where are we going? What are we doing right now? What is the you know the general focus right now? And I feel like, it's that question gets exponentially hard when you're talking about a worldview. So the best you can even get people to do is to try to explain their country, and even then, country is so huge that your view is going to get downgraded again to region. And I feel like when you're so limited in a world that's unlimited to a regional worldview, that just goes to show that people have become information gluttons. And I say information gluttons in the form that people will always be ready to take information that somebody gives them. Nobody's going to sit back and be like, hey, maybe I should try to confirm this information, or see if I believe this information. And I feel like that just comes apart. That is a consequence of being part of an extensive history. And an extensive history will always need shortcuts in order to get to people without losing people, because people will always take the quick tips versus the book tips. The if I told you that I could summarize history in a paragraph versus reading a whole textbook, people are 99% of the time going to take the paragraph versus the textbook. And that just comes with being an information glutton, in which, you would think it would mean the opposite as an information glutton, to be preoccupied with an extensive details and yada yada yada, but that would be stupid to say an information glutton is a bookworm, because that was the whole point of making a distinction of a bookworm, someone who was preoccupied with detail, detail, detail. An information glutton is someone who wants cheap information. And I say cheap information in the sense that they will believe it as far as is believable. And I believe that I feel like that's just a tactic that you just pick up from being told a lot of things. You get really good at sorting information quickly. Like, you can always tell when somebody's trying to sell you under a bridge, or sell you a bridge for that note. But people tend to lose that ability, that desire to know stuff as a result of being aware of stuff. It was a trade-off. I feel like people realize that knowing everything was a useless task, in the sense that you will always be limited by how much you can know at any given time. So what became the trade-off was being made aware of stuff, which is different from knowing stuff. Knowing stuff involves the process of confirmation, which can be tedious at times, whereas being made aware of stuff means that you don't have to believe it, but it's already made. It's already given to you. So, you know, that just comes with having a short versus a long attention span, because when I first started, people was probably already jumping to the conclusion. I'm calling them stupid. I'm calling them like I'm basically saying you have the mindset of a child, and you already lost that battle. But that's what made this particular discussion reach its climax. The idea that people will always be susceptible to their own habits. And not to say it's a bad habit, because if you could take all the information in the world, right? If there was someone that could legitimately know everything in the world and feed it to you by word of mouth, and you've already figured out how to sift through the nonsense from the sense, then more power to you. I can't tell you that that's a wrong. That's, you know what I mean. I can't tell you that that's a incorrect method, because you are still knowing the things you need to know, because you already know that there is useless information and there is useful information. And I feel like that particular piece of knowledge is what spurred this habit in the first place. The idea that once I reach that point where I know what I need to know and what I don't need to know, then I've already conquered the battle of knowing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what you should pay attention to, though, is that you can always be spoon-fed facts. And what that means is that just because someone tells you the truth doesn't mean it's the whole truth. And I feel like that is a statement that just it's very suggestive. And in order to avoid ambiguity, I'm going to explain that just because you want to know something doesn't mean you ought to know it. And that can explain a lot of perspectives, because if someone has already decided that they don't want to go about the work of figuring things out themselves, then you cannot get mad if someone decides to essentially give you the facts you want to know without the details you've already decided you don't care about. And that's not necessarily lying, because like I said, you already know what you know to be useful and what you know not to be useful. So that's not going to work. That's like more of a waste of both parties' times. So, I feel like attention span has taken on a very split path in the 21st century, because a lot of kids are going to grow up with the knowledge that they need to know how to separate knowledge, but not necessarily the desire to want knowledge. And what that means, I'll never know, because I don't have kids. But that does say a lot for the future of the 21st century, because it's like basically suggesting that people are going to let convenience tell them when they need to do stuff. And that may have worked for the easy stuff, but I feel like that may be very harmful for the hard stuff. Like, And the most easiest explanation for that was, the desire for the space program. I feel like most people don't care about that, and I can't blame them, because if you already know that Earth has everything you need, why would you care about a second Earth? Why would you care about aliens? Why would you care about what other rationalizations were they using? You know, materials, new materials, new resources for a industry that you probably won't care about or use anyway. So it's like, I feel like space is just one of those many things that people are just gonna go about their day and not, put two brain cells together for. But, you know, I feel like that just encourages a sort of apathy, scholarly apathy. And that may sound very um what do you call it? Like a sucker or something like that. Dang. Why does my brain choose now to stop working? That may sound wow. Naive, there we go. That may sound naive, but you know, I feel like that kind of insults our ancestors to not evolve, we haven't evolved, but to develop into a society that has adopted that scholarly pursuit. And from a realistic perspective, that may not necessarily be a um plausible motivation for anybody who's trying to survive as a 21st century citizen. But nonetheless, it is a motivation. And I feel like I see a point. There's enough people on the earth where you don't have to worry about your role not doing what it needs to do, because there will always be someone to stick up for that role that you don't do. That was the whole point of there being a lot of people in a society, so that those holes in what I just in academic pursuit become uh eventually filled. But what I'm trying to say is that there will eventually become a large divide in which the 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 informed scholar will be it will turn into its own job, and that not technology, but I feel like when there is a breakthrough in the 21st century, the problem is that people will need to be informed and be apathetic to be informed, because when there is no short answer, that's where the problem starts. And in a job that may require a long answer all the time, not just at the beginning, all the time, that's when work essentially the work population will be too small to meet demand, and then you know, who is going to be prepared for that? If you just came from generations and generations of people who told you that you don't need to do any more than you need to do, then just a concern that I'm voicing as a objective party to this. But that's just a hypothetical situation which I'm throwing out here. Not to say I'm trying to tell the future or anything. I never try to do that. But I do try to deduce um what can happen. Another part of attention span though is lack of creativity. I feel like the creativity of the generations is being hurt by not needing to pay attention. And this is not in anything significant, but it's more of a artistic expression type of thing, in the sense that the musicians and artisans of old are a lot more not formal, familiar with their trade than I feel like nowadays people, because there was a ability to essentially harp on details. And this became even more so a problem when the computer made artistic creation that much more easier. More importantly, the skill of the artist is one that has lost its touch, in a sense, because there is no you can't put a standard or a easy street on a skill such as artistic expression. However, I can say that an easy street has led to you know new outlets. I mean, a person that is skilled in computer drawing could technically be called an artist, but going back to the attention to detail point of view, how limited or not limited are they in terms of a manual drawing? Like, I'm sure a person who's developed their skills doing manual drawings will always be able to express themselves easier than a person who is accustomed to using a computer to draw. But that's neither here nor there. Attention span also is an encourager of bad habits, because you know when you feel like there is no need to pay attention at times to things that are what you would call irrelevant, such as what's simply going on outside every day, like the weather or something. I feel like that's just a symptom of you know people just taking too much for granted. Essentially, that's what is that's what I feel like it is leading to. And if you have the faculties to take things for granted, then more power to you. However, I feel like it is always a useful skill to be able to rely on your ability to deduce an environment around you versus, waiting to be informed about the environment. But that's just a you know, natural habit that needs that's developed. It's not learned, it's developed. I mean, when I first started this, I wasn't really trying to I'm trying to avoid trying to impression people, because this is not for that. This is meant to be purely informative. This is never a life instruction or a you know, me trying to be a parent. Not at all. But attention span is just a. No, I don't want to make it a concern. I'm just going to make it a hot topic. And the reason I made it a hot topic is because I want you to pay attention. But you know, that's it's just information for your mental benefit. Nothing nothing too over the top. Information is, I feel like, always supposed. I feel like it was meant to be scrutinized. It wasn't meant to be disregarded at any time, because, as you know, life is not predictable. If life was predictable, there would be no need for an unpredictable element such as people or animals. People or animals have the ability to, at any point in their lives, decide they don't want to follow a particular point. And I feel like that just comes with adjusting your attention span. Like, people have, I guess you can say that a oversight of having a short attention span is that you've learned to use your long attention span sparingly. And that was the whole justification of having a short attention span, is that when you need to pay attention, you will. But if you don't need to, there's no reason to. However, that can at times stagnate people. And I don't know how people feel, I'll never know. But I've always found that behind every bored person is a short attention span. And that's just to be uh uh that's just to be taken as it is, because you'll never be bored as long as your attention span is long enough to beat boredom. And that's just the truth of the fact of the matter. The good news is your attention span is easily satiated, provided you find something to satiate it. And I feel like another symptom of a short attention span is the fact that hobbies that require long attention spans have long been discarded. Like, certain people play chess, but a lot of people don't, like, seriously play chess anymore. It's become, when you have those people that play chess with clocks, then it becomes more of a joke. It's like insulting the game of chess, because it's like basically saying you're more concerned with how much time you're spending than the actual strategy of the game. And it's just, chess is just the easiest way to explain how you can adapt a large attention span to a simple thing, versus me telling you to pick up a workshop or something, or telling you to bird watch or something. Like, you know what I mean? Just things that, just have nothing to do with you as a person, because if they did, you would already be doing them. So, you know, this is more geared towards people who find themselves bored, or another symptom of a short attention span is when you tend to direct your energies towards people. And this may or may not appeal to you, but if you ever find yourself bothering with trivial things, that may be a symptom of your short attention span. And this is not to single out anybody. This is more geared towards basically me telling you you're not stupid, you're not wrong if you feel like you need to you know if you ever feel confrontational or conflict, if you ever conflict with somebody about something, it just goes to show that your attention span is short. Then again, since we're talking about interpersonal matters now, that can also mean a lot of things. You can get into a conflict over paying attention versus not paying attention. However, if you don't pay attention, it's not going to help your situation, because you're going to be irritated, and then you're not going to know why you're irritated, because you didn't pay attention. So you see how that simple example can essentially show you that not paying attention is not helpful, because if it was helpful, you wouldn't be able to piss yourself off from not paying attention. But more towards a simpler note, paying attention that leads to conflicts is most easily resolved by, you know, redirecting the attention. And people are often tempted to redirect their attention into a confrontation, which can be the problem, because why argue with somebody over something when you can direct that attention to the variables upon which you have developed these problems in the first place? And in order to avoid further getting into people's interpersonal details, I'll just make an example that may or may not get to the point. If you have a roommate who's pissing you off because of something that they do, you can pay attention to what they do and then work off of that. Or you can pay attention to what you do that leads them to do stuff and then work off of that. I mean, there are so many ways to skin a cat that there's no reason to jump to the short-term attention span, which is the person. People, that's all. I feel like that is a bad habit of people, to not use your brain and charge at the person when you can just simply use your brain and reach the person in more ways than one without even talking to the person. But that's just a advice format I'm throwing out there. You don't have to use it, but it's already out there, so you might as well use it. um, but it can seem at times that paying attention can be more of a liability than an advantage. However, you can never pay too much attention. The only thing you cannot accomplish by paying attention is realizing when your attention is not being utilized correctly. Making a mistake while you're paying attention just means that you weren't paying attention. That's the funny part. And if you make a mistake by paying attention, that just means that you haven't been spending enough time paying attention. And I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of people that don't pay attention never learn. But that's just a a topic of discussion that requires a sort of bias to the discussion, because if you've been not paying attention and this discussion is about paying attention and you pay attention, you've already violated the objectiveness of the discussion. Because if this is why I chose this particular topic, because there is no objective way of approaching this. If you don't pay attention, then you're wasting your time trying to listen to this. And if you do pay attention, then you can't listen to this, because if you do listen to this, it's like basically saying you're doing what I'm telling you to do. You see the. I made a little funny with this. This is funny. But enough with the backwards logic. You know, whether you pay attention or don't pay attention is up to you. Just expect to take losses on both sides. That's just a life lesson. There is no perfect route. However, you can master your route, which requires paying attention. And I feel like that is the goal. That is the gold nugget of this discussion. The idea that if you pay enough attention to what you do, you can get something from it every time. Every time, every time, every time, consistently. No matter what you do, no matter how you do it. Well, how you do it is part of paying attention, so maybe you do gotta tell how you do it. But you know, that's just a biased opinion that leads to not so biased results. If you can believe that. The idea that I'm telling you to pay attention so that you can get involved into a process that will ultimately lead to your benefit. I've never heard of a person that paid perfect attention and never got anything from it. Because if he never got anything from it, there's the proof he didn't pay attention. Oh man. But you know, that's I may be kicking myself in the mouth right now. Probably. Maybe. I mean, I can't say I've always paid perfect attention myself, which is probably a good thing. It means I'm not broadcasting brainwashing or whatever you might try to accuse me of or something like that. I'm not trying to I'm also not saying that I'm an advocate for those that don't pay attention. I'm just saying that there's things to be considered on both ends. But if there wasn't anything to consider on both ends, what would be the point of paying attention? I mean, I feel like the perfect two sides to this, right? If there was a way to perfectly never pay attention and you know essentially function day to day, but never pay attention, what could you possibly get from that? My answer would be peace of mind. Because the idea is that a person that never pays attention can never get mad. Perfectly though. If you find yourself get if you call yourself a so-called nonchalant, or a guy that's so cool, then you should never get mad. Because if you get mad, that's like lying. That's like your body telling you lying to yourself. And if you lying to yourself, you gonna have to pay attention anyway, because you don't already proved that you a contradiction of your own method, your own movement. On the other hand, the guy that always pays attention perfectly will also never have problems. So it goes to show that people who find themselves with a lot of problems often don't pay attention, or they do pay attention, but either way, it's never enough. So it seems that they say that money doesn't buy happiness, right? Well, attention does. Whether you buy attention or you sell attention, it can lead to happiness. People that sell attention, you know, are happy because they don't need it. They don't have to need it. If they did, they wouldn't be selling it. People that buy attention, on the other hand, people that invest in, you know, knowing things, being detail oriented, also leads to happiness, because they end up figuring out all the things they need to do. Now, the people that don't pay attention, that sell attention, end up making it through also, because even though they don't focus on the things that they need to do, they know, or they don't know, because if they did, that would mean they pay attention. Well, their mindset is there is no mindset. And a person that has no mindset will always be people perfect. You know what I mean? They will always be able to make friends, essentially. And a person that can always make friends will make it anyway. So it seems that there's two paths to this attention stuff. A guy that everybody loves, or a guy that loves himself. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that'll tell you that guys that love themselves don't prosper, but it's the truth. Guys that do love themselves do prosper, and guys that don't love themselves do prosper. It's the guys that don't know whether they want people to love them, or to think that they love themselves, that always find themselves in the middle of crossfires. And I feel like that applies to any and everything that you do, all the time. Whether you can't even throw a gender into this. I feel like, the problems that people seem to have between genders is that you either have one person doing one thing and another person not doing the other thing. Because the idea is this: two opposites will always be aware of who's in the room, right? So if you got one side doing what they need to do, and the other side is in la la land, that person gonna always be the clown in the room. They gonna always be the the circus act. And that's just a truth of the fact of the matter, that people who suffer in the world did so because they couldn't make a path. Now, this may sound like I'm jumping to conclusions here, but it's the truth. I feel like I've already solved all the problems worlds with this one discussion. People who suffer, people who they say bad and wicked people prosper. I mean, don't prosper, but it's actually the opposite. Bad and wicked people do prosper. It's the people who decided that they was gonna play. They was gonna have both film. They was gonna have feelings on both sides that ended up getting stuck with the short straw. And that may be a messed up thing to say about people in their lives or wherever their lives are going, in terms of if somebody's had a bad day, having a bad day, and was going to have a bad day. You know, the truth of the fact of the matter is that whoever's out there having a bad day is having a bad day because of their own, inability. If you, yeah, just think about the last time you've had an argument with somebody, you've had a conflict with somebody. And if it's been recent, then you need to do some thinking inside, because you need to decide whether are you going to pay attention, are you going to pay attention, or are you going to sell attention? And that's what I'm gonna leave you with, because that's all it is to it. So, on to a better note, my supporters. I want to shout out Juanita Hooper, Shamia Skinner, my anonymous patrons 1, 2, and 3. I intend to work on my supporters at the end of this week as well. That's the that was the second part of this station. The first part was the first recording. Now I'm expanding out into making it known that supporters being haunted. No, not haunted. Let me stop. But yeah, I'm definitely on the lookout for supporters and stuff. My preferred place of business is Jersey Garden Malls, and that's where it's gonna be from now on. Also, look out that I'm starting a couple of charities that will only benefit that can only benefit the station as well as other people. There is no what you call it, no hole in this loop that I'm trying to start here. So look out for that. And to all my future supporters, I thank you in advance. To my current supporters, much love to you. And to my supporters who, we gonna find out if you gonna become a past thing. So yeah, have a good day, and remember, if you're not having a good day, you should probably pay attention, or not.